What if the name your ancestors carried for generations wasn't theirs at all? In the shadow of empire, the Pokot were called a name that wasn't theirs, Suk, a word whispered by enemies, stamped by colonizers, and tied to a mysterious tale of a clever elder who fooled an empire with a single word. But was it an insult or a brilliant act of resistance? This is the untold story of a people who outwitted power, preserved identity, and turned silence into survival. To some, it is the sound of erasure, an ethnic slur passed down from the Maasai, who derided the Pokot's earthbound pursuits with a sneer wrapped in pastoral pride. The word may derive from chalk, a short staff once used to till soil, a weapon of survival miscast as a mark of shame. When European colonists arrived, they borrowed the term without question, branding an entire people with a name not their own. The label Suk became a colonial tattoo, a scar on the skin of identity. Yet others, in hushed tones, speak of the man who outwitted empire with a single word. When colonial agents first encountered the Pokot, the story goes, they demanded a name. One elder, shrewd and unyielding, is said to have pointed to tree stumps nearby and replied, Musuk. The term, meaning the lifeless remnants of felled trees, was a cryptic misdirection, an act of strategic silence. In that moment, the elder became a symbol not of submission, but of resistance. He refused to offer his people's name to strangers with pens and power. Instead, he left them with stumps. This duality, insult and ingenuity, erasure and evasion, sits at the heart of Pokot memory. For nearly 900 years, Kalenjin-speaking peoples, including the Pokot, have shaped and reshaped their lives along the western highlands of Kenya. They moved not with borders, but with the seasons, with drought and abundance, with herds and harvests. But the end of the 19th century shattered that rhythm. Drought, famine, and disease stalked the land. Cattle died, people fled. Then, from across the seas, came the British Empire, with maps, guns, and missions. By the time the British drew their artificial lines in the dust, the Pokot found themselves hemmed in. They had expanded into Karamojong territory, yet Turkana encroachments pressed them back. And just as they tried to reclaim their grazing lands, the empire turned fertile ground into European farms. By the 1920s, their southern lifeline had been carved away. To the colonial mind, West Pokot was not a place to civilize, but a buffer to protect. A closed district in name and design, it stood between the coveted White Highlands and the perceived chaos of Turkana. Europeans rarely came. Only a trickle of Protestant zeal and Catholic charity reached its edges. In 1931, the Bible Churchmen's Missionary Society planted its flag. In 1942, the Irish Kiltegan Fathers opened a school. But it was not until 1956, decades into occupation, that the first hospital arose, built by the Holy Rosary Sisters, Irish nuns tending to wounds that colonialism had helped to inflict. Still, healing was not always found in foreign hands. From the soil of suppression sprouted a sacred flame. After World War II, as colonial projects for soil conservation, health, and education trickled into West Pokot, so too did a new spiritual fire, Dini Yayomut, a grassroots religious movement rooted not in scripture, but in collective defiance. Its aim was not salvation, but liberation from European domination, from missionary mandates, from the slow bleed of culture. It was not just a faith, it was a war cry wrapped in prayer.